Hi everyone, Teddy Baldassarre with TeddyBaldassarre.com. In this video, we're looking at a watch from MIDO with the Multifort Patrimony. So in this video and on this channel, we cover watches available for purchase on our website, TeddyBaldassarre.com, as a full authorized dealer. So in this video, deep dive review on this timepiece, final points of consideration at the end, but at any point throughout this video, you have further questions, check out the link in the description to the product page where you can learn more, purchase the watch, as well as book a time with one of our dedicated watch specialists as well. But guys, let's jump into the video, take a closer look at this watch. When you think of value-oriented brands with a lot to offer under $1,000, some obvious choices that come to mind are places like Seiko, Hamilton, Tissot. But one brand that really delivers one of the most compelling packages for around this $1,000 range and under that doesn't get mentioned nearly enough is MIDO. Now, MIDO is probably one of the more underrated brands in all of watchmaking. Here in the United States, they don't get as much love as they probably deserve. But in terms of delivering some thoughtful designs, also some well-specced out watches in this price range of $1,000, I think they need to be considered a bit more. Now, today we're going to be looking at a watch that kind of combines their classic archive and one of their more tasteful designs and exceptional finishing on top of that for the money with the MIDO Multifort Patrimony. A vintage-inspired design, kind of going at that field watch, but also having some dressy undertones for some nice versatility. Looking at the Multifort Patrimony on the wrist, we have a case dimension of 40 millimeters across, 47 millimeters from the lug to lug, and a reasonable case height of 12.2 millimeters. The dome sapphire crystal is responsible for about 3.5 millimeters of that case height, so the physical case measures just around 9 millimeters in terms of actual wear. Wearing this piece under a dress sleeve should present no issues at all, and the case proportions hit a sweet spot that is going to work for a wide range of wrists out there. In terms of general wearability, this one's going to wear pretty true to a 39.5 to 40 millimeter case given the thin outer bezel as well as that domed effect and very vivid dial surface on the central point. But given it not leaning too far into either direction of dress or field watch or everyday watch category, I think this is a nice sweet spot for wear. The case is sleek with thin twisted lugs that have a unique geometry to them, particularly along the top surfaces. While the lugs appear a bit long on the front, when actually on the wrist and considering how the lugs are going to shoot straight down, it helps make it wear more compact. It also marries the combination of fine vertical brushing and high polished surfaces really well, specifically at this price point. Scanning the side of the case, you'll find the thin midsection has a crisp brush finish that extends down through the sides of the lugs. High polished surfaces are found along the entire fixed bezel, on the flat outward facing surfaces of the lugs, and along the entire back of the case. At the 3 o'clock position is a domed and signed push-pull crown that operates the movement just as you would expect. Hand winding the Powermatic 80 movement inside is done with the first position, and then at the second point, you then can adjust the time, and then the farthest pulled out point then can adjust the time while stopping the second hand in the process, so hacking seconds here. And when the crown is set flush to the case, it is going to offer, or at least assist in this watch's 50 meters of water resistance. Now, MIDO lists the lugs as a space 19 millimeters apart, but by our measurements, it's actually closer to 19.5 millimeters. In any event, this model is equipped with a high-quality tan nubuck strap, which is nicely padded from end to end. The strap is soft to the touch and flexes easily and should break in over time, but really is not going to require much break-in. The back of the strap is equally as soft as the front, and it's very comfortable on the wrist with its nice lining. There is a 1 millimeter taper from the lugs to the buckle, which is a standard pin variety with the MIDO logo lightly etched on top. One noticeable characteristic about the strap is that it will patina from this tan color to a darker brown over time, but as time goes on, those marks and scuffs will add a bit more character to this strap, and I certainly would say that this is going to be a strap that you can certainly utilize for some time. In regards to the 19.5 millimeter lug width, you might have some feasibility with 20 millimeter straps to fit within here. I would go for a supple calfskin leather, nothing that's very rigid, that of an alligator grain or something of that sort that's going to be a bit tougher to fit within the lug distance. And transitioning back over to the front of the watch, we have a box sapphire crystal that protects and reveals the dark blue sector style dial below. Now, the dial color here is sophisticated with a radial sunburst effect that plays with the light, particularly at the center, going from a rich and vibrant navy blue and transitioning to a deeper, darker navy and almost black. The sunburst effect on this, at least at that central dial point, is going to be very noticeable, but simply put, looks exceptional. There are going to be some elements of reflection and glare when it comes to the box sapphire crystal crystal, but when you get this watch at the right angle, it really does shine. Diving into the other dial elements, starting with along the outermost edge, we have a pulsometer scale, which is slightly obfuscated by the curvature of the sapphire crystal. So if you are looking at this at a certain angle, the scale can be a bit distorted, but in some ways it almost adds a bit of charm to the vintage style look that this one is clearly going for. Moving inward from the pulsometer scale, we have the hour markers, which are displayed in Arabic numerals for the quarter hours and simple applied stick indices for the remaining hours. A reasonably sized and faceted date window is located just above the 6 o'clock hour marker with a black date disc, which complements the darker blue portion of the dial nicely. And with that gradient type effect from the dial outskirts moving from the central dial point, almost looks like a direct match to the dial color. At the dial center, we have a set of thin, high polished syringe hands and a long second hand which tracks along that outer scale. The hour and minute hands do contain a thin single section of luminous material. However, the lume isn't a highlight of the piece, but still works in standard lighting conditions. On the hands, I find it is going to shine a bit brighter, but given the limited real estate of where it's going to be present within the numerals and markers along the outside of the dial, it is not going to shine with the greatest incandescence, but where it is in supply, it certainly does an adequate job. The traditional minute track is going to be set on the interior side to kind of go in that sector dial format, and from there the text is going to be rather simple. You have the old school MIDO logo at the 12 o'clock position sitting right above the automatic writing, and in alternate typography you have Multifort positioned at the 6 o'clock position. In terms of what this dial is bringing forth, I think it is an exceptional looking watch. The turn lugs work so well with this dial design, and that vivid blue is striking to look at. So turning this watch over, we reveal a screw down exhibition case back through which we can view the MIDO Caliber 80. So this movement is part of the Powermatic 80 family of movements and is based off the ETA C07621. Aesthetically, it's a simply finished movement with a matte frosted finish across the visible movement bridges and plates with no real high-end finishing, but it does have some nice Geneva striping on that finish rotor. But when examining these calibers within these MIDO movements as well as other Swatch Group brands, it really comes down to the performance. Now these movements are operating at 21,600 vibrations per hour or 3 Hertz, which is a reduced frequency from the base caliber, which is going to operate at 4 Hertz. What that is going to do is slow the beat frequency, allow the maximization of the stored energy in that mainspring to jump the power reserve up to 80 hours. Also, when it comes to MIDO, they're a brand that's very good at regulating their movements. Typically, all their movements are going to be regulated. This particular variant that we have here was running at +2 seconds a day, which is exceptional for a watch in this price range. But MIDO is also one of the brands that is producing some of the most certified Swiss chronometers in watches, being in the top 10 and close to the top 5 when they were releasing information about Swiss chronometers years ago, a point that should not be overlooked and goes to show MIDO's attention to detail and the specifications and precision that they value with their watches. And that part of the brand ethos is being executed here as well. Now to unpack looking at this MIDO Multifort Patrimony. When I first saw images of this watch a few years ago or a couple years ago when it was first released, I was a fan immediately in terms of what it was doing and positioned as within MIDO's collection. Unfortunately, it didn't get the love that I thought it was going to get when it was released, but I think now looking at this watch in more detail, a lot of the same feelings that I had back then are echoed. I think one of the challenges with this watch is it's kind of on the fringe in regards to not being fully a dress watch, not being fully an everyday watch with its 50 meters of water resistance. 100 meters would be great. But from a design perspective, there's just so much to like here. And in terms of pricing, I think fits in a nice range for what it's representing. Those turn lugs, the sector style dial in this price range, that blue is so vivid and beautiful, and some different executions with the pulsometer scale along the outside of the dial. Nice reliable movement on the inside, running like a top as well to add. Despite this one not fitting definitively in a specific box, it still offers a very cool vintage inspired style design from MIDO's archive that still is positioned in a price range of sub $1,000. It still makes a lot of sense for people that are looking for an additional Swiss watch in this price range, or maybe that first Swiss watch that could be worn both as an everyday casual watch but still have some upside in dressier environments. And although many people just start to look at the Ocean Star collection for its value as a Swiss dive watch, the Multifort collection also offers much of the same in terms of value, but this one does something a bit different and certainly stands out from the rest of the collection as well as many of the other watches that are being positioned sub $1,000. All right, guys, well, thank you again so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. That really does help out the channel. But also, if you're in the market for this watch, check it out on TeddyBaldassarre.com. TeddyBaldassarre.com is a full authorized dealer of all the brands we carry, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support. All of our products also come with a full factory warranty as well. And finally, 9 out of every $10 we generate goes right back into the content that we're creating here, as well as on our main channel, to help foster up a new generation of watch enthusiasts in the process. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.